colleague here. I used to teach at Monash. Yeah, in Melbourne as well. So yeah, it's good to see you. So and so I'm not I'm not doing research in this area. So very impressed by Sue's high energy and power persuasion. And so I'm an economist by training, and usually doing analysis by using large data set from StatsCan. And in this particular study, using labor force survey, which covers 56,000 households, about 100,000 workers in Canada. There is a little bit of gender dimension of that, is to compare the differential effects of COVID on labor market performance in Canada, especially in areas of employment, but also wages and hours and so on. Okay, that is something to. Oh, okay, to change it. Okay, and actually, this most of work actually done by my master's student, and via HAR, and also some support from my colleague from University of Toronto. Okay, so this, we know that COVID is not an equalization virus. Okay, it does impose differential effects on especially marginalized groups, such as recent immigrants, racialized group, and women, and so on. And so this is exactly what you said earlier, right? A lot of study tend to focus on women, okay, and especially those with young children, okay. So this is the focus here, maybe the context of family and household work, especially during the peak time of COVID, when a lot of schools, elementary school, was shut down, and that actually affect women probably disproportionately. We would like to know at what extent actually this is actually true, right? That's probably more important to be informed by empirical evidence, and that would be the potential policy recommendation. So as I said earlier, we use this gender based plus approach and the intersectionality lenses to examine the so-called triple whammy effects of the COVID on female, of course, in comparison with male, and low skilled, and facing those kind of disruptions. And we use a framework called difference in difference. I'm going to use the layman approach of what that means. Okay, essentially, we want to compare men and women, with and without young children, 6 to 12, and how they would be impacted differently, right, in terms of employment, probability, wages, and hours. We did find some effects, okay, especially for those women with young children, okay, and in terms of low employment, hours worked, and compare with males in the same situation, but not always. Okay, there's a lot of heterogeneity, especially for the high skilled women. Okay, and they are actually affect very little, compared with men. Okay, so. And we also found that the differential effects of the COVID was the Omicron, right? The later strain of the virus. Okay, next. And as mentioned earlier, right, our analysis is based on individual data from the monthly file labor force survey of Stats Canada from January 2018 to March 2022, divided in 3-time period. Okay, the first time period is the peak time of COVID. Okay, from before and after January 2018 to February 2020, just before March 2020, when COVID was declared as global pandemic by WHO. Okay, a second period was designated the first wave of COVID from April 20 to June 2020, corresponding to those kind of emergency measures like the school closing. Okay, this is probably peak time of COVID. And the third period is from January 2022 to March 2022. This is where actually Omicron become more dominant strain of COVID. Okay, next. So in terms of data sample restrictions here, we limit to the prime age of labor force participation, of course, relative to employment outcomes. 25 to 52, including youth and senior, and also excluding up for March 2020 because that was declared mid of March, so half were impacted and half were not. So it's very hard to tell whether that is a clean impact of COVID, right? And we also made some adjustments, CPI, and also some extreme level of wages. And we're also looking at the skill distributions because there's argument that those individuals working in the frontline industry and the lower skill occupations are affected most by COVID. Okay, they also tend to not have the privilege of working from home, right? So that's the reason why they suffer more. Okay, that's that argument. We do have that occupation, detailed occupation in the neighbor force survey, locked NOC, okay, codes, and also hot hit sectors, in the sense that the decrease in employment rate is higher than average, okay, decrease for all industries. Next. Okay, empirical model, it's a little bit more fancy here now. So, and here's that we have just the, the usual regression analysis. The Y are the dependent variable or measures of wages, hours, employment. And the COVID is a dummy variable, right? Before and then after, okay? And we have the female dummy, which is comparison between male, female outcomes. And what is more interesting here is more like a natural experiment. Think about COVID as a shock, okay? It's an exogenous factor, nobody beyond control everyone. That's the reason why it's used for this analysis. So what is more important here is the so-called interaction term, okay? The female times COVID. That is what? That's kind of additional shock on female, right? So the COVID basically in this case is just measure the impact on males. But that interaction term is something if as on female, okay? Right, kind of double whammy or triple whammy effects, okay? So that's interpretation of that. And next, don't want to go into all the details, okay? So you see kind of summary statistics. You can see that actually, like, this 3-time periods, right? You can see that before COVID, pre-COVID, right? The employment rate is much higher, 86%, and dropped more than 10%, right? 13% during the peak time of COVID, okay, as expected, and actually went fully back up in the 3rd time period during the Omicron period, actually, right? And 86% again, all right? So it's really we're talking about the COVID effects, short-term effects, okay? So, but short-term effect could have consequences. That's something we might be interested. Okay, next. So those are the results, just snapshots of the main results here. Okay, the first one is looking at employment, okay? Employment probability between men and women, highly skilled, low skilled, and during different waves of COVID, okay? So sorry for the small font size. Hopefully you can read here, okay? So here's the first one is that the female, okay? You can look at the that's before COVID, okay? And we know that already, right? In the usual time, that's what I mean. But in the normal economic periods, women are less likely to be employed, okay? By how much? 3.5%. If they have young children, okay? If they don't, right, the gap is smaller, probably as expected, okay? So family responsibility, does play an important role. And then for high skilled and low skilled, okay, with children and without children. Always, if you don't have young children, the gap is smaller, okay, right? And similarly looking at low skilled and high skilled, right? So, and the second one is the COVID, right? How that impact men and women differently. And this is essentially the impact on men, okay? Because we already have this interaction term looking at what's as on for women, okay? And COVID does have very significant effects in the short term, right? But reducing employment probability by 20% if you have young children, okay? It's about similar for those without. And for high skill, low skill, always quite different. Okay. And a lot more impact on the high skilled, less than, of course, low skilled, right? You can see 20% versus 12%. That's still less, okay? Because they have the privilege of working from home, working remotely, and so on and so forth. And they're probably much more valued by organization as well. During the Omicron period, no effects, okay? Right, almost no effect, you can see that, right? Very small magnitude, not statistically significant, okay? Omicron doesn't have much effect on employment probability. And next one, probably of interest, to look at how that affect women differently, with and without children, right? And here's that we can see, indeed, there's a little bit more, 4.2% for women, okay, for low skill, especially with children, okay? Without children, 2.1%. For highly skilled, that's an important point here, no effects, even anything be positive effects. If women don't have young children, okay, and you're highly skilled, you're actually, the negative employment probably be reduced. You're doing better than men. Okay, this is interesting, right? You probably have a lot of bargaining power in the household, right? If you're highly skilled, right? It increasingly become the trend. And we have more stay-at-home mom deaths over time, right? Although the percentage-wise still, right, more women stay at home, but the change is in favor, right, men at home. And the government also made changes, right, both at the federal, provincial level, in terms of granting not only in the maternity leave, which reinforce this kind of traditional division of labor at home, right, by giving fathers equal rights of taking care of the baby, okay, at home, okay? That probably explains, right, for highly skilled women, actually they are doing a little bit better, than male counterparts during COVID period, okay? Next. And this is about hours, okay? We shifted from employment to hours. The results are, kind of seminal. The short-term effects is there, okay? This is in a normal time, right? Women work a few hours than men, okay? Especially for those, let me see here. Let me get it right. This is with, dependent young children. This is without, okay? During the COVID has negative effects for low skilled. Again, not much for high skilled, okay? And in terms of additional effects, almost no effects on hours, okay, for women during the COVID, okay, right? Omicron, no effect, 0 effect, okay? So this is for hours of work. And for those women or low-skilled individuals who maintain a job, those, of course, some of them lost a job because of COVID. But for them actually keep a job, the hours sometimes are higher because, in the past you have 2 persons do the 2 jobs. Now you have only 1 person do the 2 jobs, right? You end up actually high wages, right? Especially for recent immigrants. We found that as well. It's kind of interesting findings, but it also means that it expose high risk, but it also receive some compensation for the risk. And also because they're working more tasks, okay, right? That probably explains this kind of puzzling results from that. Next is on wages, okay? And this is very well established. Women on average make less, okay, right? How much? Usually 11, 10%, 20%, depending on your skill levels and whether you have children or not, okay? If you have children, usually, let me see here, your wage penalty is high, right? We know that, 20% versus 15%, okay? And the COVID effects, that's what I said, there's positive effects actually, right? On those individuals with, right? If you end up keeping the jobs, you actually doing more tasks and also expose more risk, getting more compensation for that risk, right? This is what happened in the United States. We have this, what do we call it? Mass resignation, right? And the lower skilled individual first time have the option, right, to stay in a job or leave the job, right? They have the bargaining power, right, to see, this is, I should not be treated like that, okay, right? And so this is what happened here, right? Looking at the COVID effect on wages, very small, even positive, okay? And similarly, female doing reasonably well, okay? Especially for those low skilled during the Omicron period. Wait a minute, I'm doing better somewhat, okay? Which is encouraging, I think, to some, if you are feminist, right? Depending on your perspective, okay? And so I think my time is up, right? Okay, let me stop here. Some policy we can take at the end, if you're interested.
Question?
Sure.
It's interesting and directly reflective in the work that I do and the population I serve, which are basically those involved with IPV, with intimate partner violence. And you can see the effect of the job change that caused a lot of the issues, such as, like, as you said, the females ended up being, like, let's say, office workers, which moved to online modules, whereas most of the males were in a force that was off the market entirely, either labor or, some sort of restaurant or entertainment industry that was completely shut down. And that's change of responsibility was just a massive offset, because it's a whole new role in existence for both of them. And it gave her a bit more power, and we saw some emotional stuff going on there, coming off, into the areas we're seeing that, okay, the emotional abuse was not recognized, but the physical was, when they eventually are going to snap, right? You can't be in that pressure keg without something giving. And what's concentrated on is the actual result of what happened, not so much the overall effect. So this is really interesting for me, because I saw it in how it played out. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we can see that, women becoming increasingly more educated. I mean, if you look at the college, university, we have more female students than male students in professional school, medical, business school, and engineering school, and not engineering school, probably not, and law school, right? And eventually have, if you believe in the family bargaining model, right, you definitely have, more, kind of ability to negotiate, right? In terms of child care and not child care responsibility. That technology is not advanced in that. So yeah, that's explains, right, why, maybe there's more conflicts. You talk about work-life conflicts early on, right? But also other kind of relationship conflicts, because women become more independent. They have more bargaining power. Why should I, do this much? Why should I have so many children, right? 7, 8 children. No, we have 1 or 2, right? In Canada, big problem. And I think that has profound implications for family relationship, and also the potential conflicts, right, in the family context.